I could still hear it echoing in my ears. Mom's the fun police. My chest tightened, my heart sank, and my hands trembled as I watched my own children, Emma and Caleb, giggle nervously at my in-laws' words. I had just spent the last hour explaining why a reasonable bedtime and screen limits were necessary, yet my mother-in-law, Teresa, had twisted it into some grand accusation to make me look controlling. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand why she would undermine me in front of the kids, but I couldn't. My jaw tightened, a surge of anger bubbling up that I had to control for now. Deep down, I knew this was the moment everything had changed. I wasn't just a mom anymore. I had been betrayed, humiliated, and I was done staying silent. What would you do if your own family turned your kids against you? Would you stay silent or fight back? Comment below and let me know, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories where justice is finally served. Before all this chaos, my life felt simple and predictable. I'm Madison Harper, a mom of two energetic kids, Emma, age 10, and Caleb, age 7, juggling work-from-home responsibilities with the endless whirlwind of parenting. My husband, Ryan, was supportive most of the time, but his family, especially his mother, Teresa, and his father, Gerald, had always had strong opinions about how I raised the kids. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was harmless advice, but it always carried an edge of judgment I couldn't ignore. For months, I had been setting reasonable boundaries: bedtime routines, homework schedules, and limits on screen time. I thought I was doing what any responsible parent would do. But last week, during a family game night at their house, I overheard Teresa whispering to Emma and Caleb, "Your mom is the fun police. Don't let her stop you from having a good time." My stomach dropped, my hands went cold, and my heart pounded. I couldn't believe she had said that to my kids, twisting my rules into some villainous act. At that moment, I realized that this wasn't just playful teasing. It was a direct attack on my authority, meant to make me look unreasonable and strict in front of the ones I loved most. The betrayal cut deep. These weren't just in-laws who disagreed. They were deliberately turning my own children against me. I sat in silence, shaking, trying to process that the people I trusted most were the ones who had just humiliated me in the worst way possible. After that night, everything changed at home. Emma and Caleb began questioning every rule I set, often repeating Teresa's words with sly grins. "Mom's the fun police." My heart ached every time I saw their confusion, and I felt a mix of anger and guilt. Had I been too strict? Had I somehow pushed them away? But deep down, I knew it wasn't me. It was the manipulation of my in-laws. Ryan tried to mediate, but he often brushed it off, saying, "They're just kids. Don't take it personally." That only made me feel more isolated, like I was fighting this battle alone. I started walking on eggshells, unsure if enforcing a bedtime would spark tears or a new rumor. Each defiant comment from my kids felt like a dagger to my heart. I loved them fiercely, but watching them unknowingly repeat lies made me feel powerless and frustrated. I tried reasoning with Teresa and Gerald, but every conversation ended with excuses and half-smiles, as if mocking me. It was humiliating, the way they dismissed my feelings while continuing to sow discord. I felt small in my own home, a mother undermined by those I should have been able to trust. Yet, amid the hurt, something started to shift inside me. I realized that feeling powerless was a choice I didn't have to accept. My anger became fuel, my frustration a source of determination. I began quietly observing, planning my next moves carefully. I would reclaim my authority, but this time on my terms. No shouting matches, no petty arguments, just strategy and resolve. I would show them, and my children, exactly who I was, a mom they could trust, respect, and believe in. By the end of those weeks, the humiliation had transformed into quiet, simmering empowerment. I knew one thing for certain. Teresa and Gerald had underestimated me. And soon, they would see exactly what happens when you cross the fun police, without expecting a response. I started paying closer attention to every move Teresa and Gerald made, every sly comment and condescending glance. I noticed patterns, how they tried to win the kids' favor, how they subtly sabotaged my routines, and how easily they believed the children would repeat anything without question. I made mental notes, jotting down small details I could use later, quietly mapping out my approach. Meanwhile, I focused on strengthening my bond with Emma and Caleb. I spent more time playing games, reading together, and listening to their little stories. It wasn't just about being fun. It was about showing them trust and consistency so they could see through Teresa's manipulations. I also started gathering allies. A few close friends and even Ryan cautiously became part of my plan. I didn't share specifics, just hinted at my intentions, keeping suspense alive while mentally preparing my next steps. Every smile from the kids now felt like a quiet victory, a reminder that I could regain control without confrontation. I could sense the tension building, the moment when everything would come together and they would finally understand that I was not the villain in this story. The night of the family dinner arrived, and I had everything carefully arranged. I invited Teresa and Gerald over, making it clear it was a casual evening with the kids, but little did they know, I had set the stage. Emma and Caleb were on my side, excited but cautious, following my cues as we entered the dining room. As the meal began, I let Teresa make her usual passive-aggressive remarks, smiling politely while keeping my tone calm. Then, at the perfect moment, I announced a family game I had created, one that required honesty, teamwork, and sharing experiences. The twist? Every question subtly exposed truths about respect, rules, and fairness in a playful, non-threatening way. One question asked the kids to name the person who makes sure rules are fair and keeps everyone safe. Emma and Caleb hesitated, then both beamed at me, proudly saying, "Mom." Teresa's jaw dropped, and Gerald's eyes widened. The room went silent except for my quiet, satisfied smile. I let it linger, letting them fully absorb the shift. I followed up by explaining, in a warm, gentle way, why rules mattered and how "fun police" was a misleading label. I encouraged the kids to share how they felt, and for the first time, Teresa and Gerald couldn't argue without looking foolish. Every subtle jab they had made backfired in front of the kids, turning the ridicule back on them. By the end of the evening, I had not only reclaimed my authority, but also reinforced my children's trust and respect. Teresa and Gerald sat in stunned silence, realizing that their attempts to undermine me had completely failed. I felt an exhilarating mix of relief, empowerment, and vindication. The weight of weeks of humiliation lifted in one carefully orchestrated, satisfying moment. Sitting quietly later that night, I reflected on everything that had happened. The betrayal, the humiliation, the sleepless nights worrying about how my kids saw me. It all felt like a distant nightmare. I realized that my anger and determination had not just been about punishing Teresa and Gerald. It had been about standing up for myself and protecting the trust and respect between me and my children. I learned that boundaries are not just rules. They're lessons in respect, love, and consistency. When someone tries to undermine you, it's easy to feel small, powerless, and frustrated, but taking action thoughtfully and strategically can turn the situation in your favor. I discovered that revenge isn't about cruelty. It's about reclaiming dignity, setting the record straight, and showing the people you care about the truth of your character. Most importantly, I realized that the respect of my children was the most precious thing I could protect. By approaching the situation calmly and creatively, I restored their trust and deepened our bond. I also understood that patience and observation can be powerful allies. The in-laws had underestimated me, and my quiet preparation had turned the tables completely. I hope anyone watching understands this. When people try to label you unfairly, when your authority or integrity is questioned, don't panic. Stay calm, observe, plan, and act with purpose. The lesson here isn't just about revenge. It's about empowerment, resilience, and teaching the ones you love what real respect looks like. In the weeks after that family dinner, life at home began to feel lighter, freer, and more joyful. Emma and Caleb no longer whispered Teresa's insults or questioned my rules. They respected them and understood the reasoning behind each boundary. The playful bond we had started to rebuild grew stronger than ever, and I found myself laughing and playing with them without the constant tension that had clouded our home for months. Teresa and Gerald, on the other hand, seemed to tread carefully, their usual smugness replaced by a quiet wariness. They had learned, in the most subtle yet undeniable way, that undermining me came with consequences they hadn't expected. While I didn't harbor resentment forever, I did enjoy the satisfaction of seeing them realize that I would not be pushed aside or disrespected, especially in front of my children. Ryan finally admitted he had underestimated the situation, praising my patience, strategy, and courage. It was a relief to feel truly supported in my own home. Together, we reinforced the lessons we wanted our kids to carry, not just about rules and limits, but about standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. I also discovered a new sense of empowerment in myself. I wasn't just Madison, the mom being labeled unfairly. I was a woman who could handle betrayal with grace, creativity, and strength. My home became a place of trust, laughter, and clear boundaries, and I knew that nothing anyone else said could shake that again. This experience taught me that respect is earned, boundaries matter, and sometimes the quiet, calculated response speaks louder than any argument ever could. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, stronger and happier than before. Looking back, I realized that standing my ground wasn't about proving Teresa and Gerald wrong. It was about teaching myself and my kids what respect truly means. Revenge, when done thoughtfully, isn't about hurting others. It's about reclaiming your dignity and showing strength in the face of betrayal. I hope my story reminds you that even when family undermines you, you have the power to set things right with patience, strategy, and love. What would you do if someone tried to label you unfairly in front of your children? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about empowerment, resilience, and standing up for yourself.